What if I told you that an Amish family with 12 children can walk away from everything they have ever known, their church, their neighbors, their grandparents, their language, their entire way of life, and that when they do, the world waiting on the other side has almost no system in place to receive them? Why a whole family leaves. Most Amish departures are individual. A teenager during Rumspringa who does not come back. A young man who falls in love with an English girl. A woman who quietly stops attending church. Single people leaving is painful but familiar. The community has language for it, a process for it, a response for it. A whole family leaving is different. When a father and mother with 12 children walk out together, it is rarely impulsive. It is the end of a long internal process that began years before anyone outside knew anything was wrong. Something cracked, a theological disagreement with the bishop, a child's medical need the community could not meet, or simply the accumulated weight of a life lived under rules that stopped feeling like faith and started feeling like a cage. The last day inside, the morning they leave looks like any other morning. The fire has started. The animals are fed. The younger children eat breakfast without knowing this is the last time they will sit at this table as members of this community. The older ones sense it in the way their parents move too deliberately, as if everything is being memorized. What gets packed is less than most people expect: clothing, tools, the family Bible, whatever cash the father kept aside. What does not get packed is everything else: the farm, the relationships, the language their children dream in. They leave quietly. No announcement, no farewell. They simply stop being there. The shunning that follows. The ban begins almost immediately. It is not a gradual cooling, it is a formal declaration that changes how every baptized member is required to treat them. No shared meals, no business. No ordinary conversation. The unbaptized children are not formally shunned, but not welcomed back either. Friends they grew up with quietly disappear without any single conversation that closes things. What the shunning does to a family of 14 is multiply its weight across every relationship at once. No bridge left inside, no sympathetic aunt, no grandfather who finds reasons to stop by. The practical wall. Within days, the family hits a wall that faith cannot soften. The English world runs on documents, credit history, work records, driver's licenses, bank accounts. An Amish family of 14 has almost none of these. The father has no license, no credit history, no recognized employment record, and an 8th grade education. The mother is in the same position. Between them, they have raised 12 children and managed a farm, none of which appears on a resume. The children need birth certificates and immunization records for school enrollment. Some states have processes for this. Others do not. The family learns quickly that the outside world was not built with them in mind. Youngest children, new world, no memory. The youngest children in a family of 12 are the ones who adapt most completely, and that adaptation is its own kind of loss, even if it does not look like one from the outside. A 3-year-old who leaves the Amish community will not remember it. A 5-year-old will carry fragments, the smell of a barn, the sound of Pennsylvania Dutch spoken at a Sunday service, the particular quality of silence inside a house without electricity. These fragments will surface throughout their life in ways they cannot always explain, but they will not carry the full weight of departure the way their older siblings do. They will learn English as a primary language. They will make friends in public school without the specific grief of having left friends behind. They will grow up in the English world and, to most people who meet them, will appear to have always lived there. What they will also grow up without is the community that would have shaped them, the network of cousins and neighbors and church members that forms the social architecture of an Amish childhood. Something was exchanged on the day they left, even for the ones too young to know an exchange was happening. Older children between two worlds. The children in the middle of a family of 12, roughly between the ages of 8 and 14 at the time of departure, face a particular kind of difficulty that the youngest and oldest do not share in quite the same way. They are old enough to remember everything: the farm, the church services in their neighbors' homes, the friends they played with at school, the grandparents they saw every week, They carry all of it intact in the fully formed way that memory works at that age, and they carry it into a world that does not know what to do with it. Public school is a shock in both directions. They are behind academically in some subjects. Amish education stops at 8th grade and does not include certain subjects taught in English schools. But they are ahead in ways the school system does not measure, in practical knowledge, in work ethic, in the ability to focus on a task without distraction. They navigate classrooms full of peers who have grown up entirely differently, who speak without the trace of Pennsylvania Dutch accent that marks them, who have references and touchstones that mean nothing to a child who spent their whole life inside one of the most closed communities in America. They are not Amish anymore. They are not English yet. For years, they lived somewhere between the two. Teenagers and young adults, hardest landing. The teenagers and young adults in the family, those who were approaching or had just reached baptism age, faced the hardest transition of anyone in the household. They are old enough to have been fully formed by Amish life, old enough to have already chosen their community, their identity, their future path. And now that future has been replaced by something they did not choose and are not prepared for. If any of them had already been baptized before the family left, they carry their own band, their own formal shunning separate from their parents. They are not simply children following their family out the door. They are adults who broke a vow they made before God and their congregation, and the community treats them accordingly. For those who had not yet been baptized, the situation is legally and socially complex in different ways. They need driver's licenses. They need to finish their education or find work. They need to build an identity in a world that does not recognize the one they came from. They may have skills, carpentry, farming, animal care, sewing, food preservation that are genuinely valuable, but that no employer's application form has a box for. Some of them find their footing faster than expected. Others spend years in a grief that the English world around them does not fully understand, because the world they are grieving does not look, from the outside, like something worth grieving. What the parents face first. Before the parents can begin building a new life, they have to solve a series of immediate practical problems that arrive all at once and cannot be deferred. Housing first. A family of 14 needs significant space, and they need it immediately, without a credit history that would satisfy most landlords. Some families in this situation find help through ex-Amish networks, small communities of former members who understand the situation and can provide temporary support. Others rely on English neighbors or churches that extend help without requiring a paper trail. Employment comes next and hits the same wall. The father is a skilled man in every practical sense. He can build structures, manage land, handle animals, repair equipment, and run a complex household operation. None of this appears on a resume because none of it was ever formally documented. He may start with manual labor that pays less than his skills warrant while he builds the work history that the English system requires before it opens the doors he is capable of walking through. The mother manages 14 people in transition, simultaneously feeding them, calming them, managing the emotional weight of children who are grieving and confused and scared, while carrying her own grief and her own fear and her own disorientation without the community of women she relied on for her entire adult life. She does this without the support network that Amish life built around her. She does it largely alone. The grandparents left behind. Inside the community they left. 2 sets of grandparents are now living inside a situation no one designed for grandparents. They have lost their son or daughter, their son-in-law or daughter-in-law, and all 12 grandchildren in a single departure that happened without warning and cannot be reversed without a full return and public confession. What the ban requires of them is specific and painful. They cannot eat at the same table as their shunned children. They cannot accept gifts from them or conduct business with them. In the strictest communities, even a casual visit is governed by the avoidance rules in ways that make ordinary grandparenting impossible. Some grandparents quietly break these rules when no one is watching. A grandmother who finds reasons to be near the family's new home. A grandfather who leaves something practical at the door without knocking. Others follow the rules completely. not out of cruelty, but out of a genuine theological conviction that the shunning is the only path back to their children, that maintaining it is an act of love, even when it tears something inside them every single day. What none of them expected is that the grandchildren they are now separated from will grow up to be people they do not recognize, that the youngest ones will forget Pennsylvania Dutch, that the teenagers will learn to drive and go to college and build English lives, that the distance, which was supposed to be temporary, will quietly become permanent. 5 years later, 5 years after the departure, the family looks different than it did on the road out. Not unrecognizably so, but different in ways that accumulate and compound. The father has a driver's license now. He works in construction or carpentry or some trade that finally has room for what he can do. The mother has built a new daily life, not the one she had, but one that functions, that has routines and relationships and moments of genuine peace. The youngest children have friends at school who have no idea they grew up Amish. The middle children are finding their way, some more smoothly than others. The teenagers who struggled hardest are in various places. Some found community in ex-Amish networks or in churches that welcome them without requiring explanations. Others are still working through something that does not have a clean name, not depression exactly, not regret exactly, but a persistent awareness that the world they live in now is not entirely their own. What has not changed is the absence. The grandparents who are still inside the community, the cousins who cannot freely visit, the community meals they will never attend again, the graves they cannot visit without walking past people who are required by their faith to treat them as strangers. 5 years out, the family has built a life. But the shape of what they left is still visible in everything they built around it. The family that crossed the line. There is a version of this story that focuses on what the family gained: freedom from the ordnung, access to education, technology, medicine, and the broader world. Children who will grow up with choices their parents never had, a life that belongs to them in a way that Amish life, with its community accountability and its bishop's oversight, never entirely did. That version is true. All of those things are real, and for many families who leave, they are worth every cost of the crossing. But there is another version running alongside it. The version where 12 children went to sleep one night as members of a community that had existed for 300 years and woke up the next morning as people who used to belong to it. Where a father lost the land he expected to inherit and the faith community he expected to grow old inside. Where a mother lost the women who would have sat with her through every difficulty of the years ahead. Where two sets of grandparents lost their grandchildren to a world they believe is spiritually dangerous and have to live with that loss every Sunday when they sit in a church service that used to hold 14 more people than it does now. What happens when an Amish family of 12 children leaves the community is that two worlds are created out of one. The world they left, which closes around their absence and continues, and the world they are building, which has room for everything they brought with them and a permanent empty space where everything they left behind used to be. Neither world is complete without the other, and neither one is going back.